I am glad to welcome you to my channel Sinister Horror Stories. Before we start the story, I would like to ask you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. It was my first time being left home alone overnight. At 17, I figured I could handle it. My parents had gone to visit my grandmother, who just had surgery, and they wouldn't be back until late the next day. I assured them I'd be fine. After all, it was just one night in our quiet suburban neighborhood, where nothing ever happened. Our house was one of those big old Victorians with creaky floors and narrow hallways that seemed to stretch on forever. It had character, my mom always said. But at night, especially when I was alone, that character made the house feel less like a home and more like a labyrinth of shadows. The day passed without incident. I spent most of it in my room, scrolling through my phone and watching movies. I ordered pizza for dinner, watched a bit of TV in the living room. I brushed my teeth, checked all the locks twice, and climbed into bed, pulling the covers up to my chin. The wind had picked up outside, rustling the trees and occasionally rattling the windows. I wasn't scared of storms. Actually, I liked them. The sound of rain and wind had always been soothing to me, but tonight there was something different in the air, something that made me uneasy. As I lay there in the dark, trying to ignore the strange feeling creeping up my spine, I heard it, a soft, almost imperceptible tapping sound. It was so faint at first that I thought I might be imagining it. But then it came again, louder this time. It sounded like it was coming from downstairs. I sat up in bed, my heart beginning to race. The wind howled outside, but the tapping continued, steady and deliberate. I strained to listen, trying to pinpoint where it was coming from. It sounded like the kitchen window. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and turned on the flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness of my room. I hesitated for a moment, telling myself it was just a branch hitting the glass, or maybe the wind knocking something loose. But deep down, I knew it was neither of those things. Reluctantly, I slid out of bed and crept to my bedroom door. The hallway was pitch black, and I felt a chill run through me as I stepped out. I tiptoed down the stairs, my flashlight trembling in my hand, the tapping growing louder with each step. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I paused. The tapping had stopped, leaving the house in a heavy silence that pressed in on me from all sides. I took a deep breath and rounded the corner into the kitchen, the flashlight beam sweeping across the countertops and cabinets. The window was closed, the curtains fluttering slightly in the breeze from the vent. Nothing seemed out of place, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I approached the window slowly, my eyes darting around the room, and then I saw it, a single muddy handprint smudged on the glass. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The handprint was small. It looked like it could have been left by a child, but there was something off about it, something that made my skin crawl. The fingers were long, unnaturally so, and the print was smeared, as if whoever, or whatever, had left it, was dragging their hand across the glass. I backed away from the window, my heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to scream, but my voice was caught in my throat. What was going on? Who had been at the window? And where were they now? Suddenly, I heard a creak behind me, a sound that made my blood run cold. I spun around, my flashlight sweeping across the room, and landed on the pantry door, which was now slightly ajar. It had been closed when I came downstairs, I was sure of it. My hands shook as I pointed the flashlight at the door, willing myself to move, to run, to do anything but stand there paralyzed with fear. But I couldn't. I was rooted to the spot, my eyes fixed on that sliver of darkness beyond the door. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. I immediately regretted it. What was I thinking? Who, or what, was I expecting to answer? For a moment there was nothing but silence. Then, from the darkness of the pantry, a voice, a child's voice, soft and eerie, whispered back, "Let me in." My scream caught in my throat as the door swung open all the way, revealing a small figure standing in the shadows. It was a child, or at least it looked like one, but its face was pale, almost translucent, and its eyes were dark, empty pits. The figure stepped forward, its bare feet patting softly on the cold kitchen floor. I stumbled backward, my mind racing. This couldn't be real. It had to be a dream, a hallucination. But the fear gripping my heart told me otherwise. The child thing took another step forward, its gaze fixed on me, and I finally found the strength to move. I turned and bolted up the stairs, my feet barely touching the steps as I fled to my room. I slammed the door behind me and threw myself against it, my chest heaving with terror. I fumbled with the lock, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get it to turn. When it finally clicked into place, I backed away, my eyes locked on the door as if it might burst open at any moment. The house was silent again, but the silence was then the noise. I grabbed my phone, my hands trembling as I tried to dial my parents. But the screen was dead, the battery drained. I cursed under my breath, my mind racing for a plan. I needed to get out of the house, but that thing, whatever it was downstairs between me and the only exit. Then I heard it again, the tapping, but this time it was coming from outside my bedroom window. My blood ran cold as I turned to face the window. The curtains were drawn, but I could see the silhouette of a small figure standing just beyond the glass, its hand pressed against the window. "Let me in," the voice whispered again, this time louder, more insistent. I backed away from the window, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to get out, but there was nowhere to go. The figure outside the window began tapping again, harder this time, the sound echoing in the stillness of the room. Suddenly the window burst open, the curtains blowing inward as a gust of cold air rushed into the room. I screamed as the figure climbed through the window, its pale, hollow eyes fixed on me. I bolted for the door, yanking it open and racing down the hallway. I didn't stop until I reached the front door, fumbling with the locks as tears streamed down my face. Just as I got the door open, I felt a cold hand grab my shoulder. I screamed, spinning around to face the thing that had followed me, but there was nothing there. Just the empty hallway, and the open door to my bedroom at the far end. I didn't hesitate. I tore the front door open and ran out into the night, my bare feet slapping against the pavement as I fled down the street. I didn't stop running until I reached the neighbor's house, pounding on the door until they answered, confused and groggy. I told them what had happened, my voice trembling with fear, but they didn't believe me. They thought I had a nightmare, that my imagination had gotten the best of me, but I knew better. I knew what I had seen, what had followed me, and I knew deep down that it wasn't over. Because as I sat in the neighbor's living room, wrapped in a blanket and waiting for my parents to come home, I heard it again, the soft, insistent tapping on the window. And this time, when I looked up, I saw those hollow, empty eyes staring back at me. Thank you for listening to the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Share your impressions in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thank you.